everyone, I'm Jane Hanlon, the Mortgage Club Manager for Wise, and welcome to today's Ask Jane. Today's question is, why do some lenders restrict the borrowing on flats? Well, basically it's the risk and the resale. Different lenders view it differently. Many do actually do an 85% haircut on them, which means they only take 85% of the value of the property and then base their lending accordingly. That's the likes of Aviva, Legal & General and the Rosse money through the Pure Classic and More to Life. They also take into account the length of the lease. And in a lot of cases, they base the figure on something like 175 years minus the age of the youngest. Now this does vary. Some are longer, some are shorter. But this we find can be quite difficult at the club, because if you've got a 76-year-old, if you take 76 from 175, means you need to have a 99-year lease or more. A lot of the leases are shorter than that. So what we do find, and you can do, and it's an opportunity for you as an advisor actually, is to extend the lease. So for example, you've got a 65-year lease, but you need a 99-year lease. You can extend the lease by 34 years. And you can use the equity release funds to do the extension. This happens very, very regularly, certainly in the London market. And what you'll find is, if you've extended the lease, then you'll find your property value goes up significantly because it's more mortgageable. So say, for example, your £500,000 flat required 100,000 to extend the lease by 34 years, you could find that your property is then worth in excess of 750,000. Other things that lenders take into account and are fairly standard is the number of stories. Most will lend up to 6. If you've got one that's 6 and got floors over 4, then it must have a lift. So these are the kinds of questions you need to have on your fact find, or at least get a feeling for at quite an early stage, so that you can place and save time. Access to the property, they prefer internal. They don't like external stairs or deck access, as this causes an issue. So they like it all in-house and one unit. Position of the flat is also important for some of the lenders. Not all of them like the basement flats. The ones that do require access to gardens or fresh air and things like that, or windows. Other things to consider, which perhaps you don't get quite so much with houses, is are they over commercial? And if so, what are they over? Things with takeaways, hair, food, which cause problem with rotting food, chemicals, anything like that. Late night tends to be harder to place depending on where the flat is. Quite often you can have a food outlet or a little store or something below, and then your flat might be 3 or 4 stores higher, which may mean we can place it. But if it's immediately above, then that tends to be a little bit more difficult. But give us a go and we'll see what we can do. The lenders are starting to open out more as physical valuations are now being done. Desktop meant hardly any lenders would consider a flat, but nowadays with the physical, providing your client is in a position to allow a valuer in, then everything's back to normal with that. The freeholder again is causing problems. If it's a limited management company, then that's absolutely fine. Lenders are happy with that. If your client has a percentage of the freehold, then what happens then? Not all lenders will lend. However, some will lend. However, they require a charge over the freehold as well as the leasehold property to protect their interest. The concern is that works will not be done and the value will deteriorate. Everything about equity release is the resale value of the property, because obviously they don't want any negative equity. The ground rent as well is an interesting one. If you're inside London, it can be up to £1,000 per annum, but anything outside, the limit is £250 per annum. Most flats fit within that. Where they do fall out is the service charge. The general rule is up to 1.5% of the property value. Some will be higher than that, some will be lower, or some do a combination of the ground rent and the service charge. So feel free to give us a call. We do see escalating fees. They are very few and far between, and they tend to be over a longer period of time, so 25 years. So some of the lenders will take a view on that, bearing on the age of the client. In 25 years' time, he might not be with us anymore, or she might not be with us. So therefore, they would take a view on that and the resale on that. Converted houses, maximum of 4 flats. And that's under the mortgage code, and that's fairly standard in the mortgage industry as well as equity release. If it's any more than that, then we can't get it covered. Ex-local authority, we see quite a lot of these at the club, and yes, they are placeable. With Aviva, they will lend on flats over 75,000, providing that they feel that they are resellable and there's good demand. Legal in general will consider if they're over 150,000. However, the lease has got to be 185 years minus the age of the youngest, which can cause a problem with local authority. Just depends on where you are in the country. And one family will consider them of property values of over 250,000. However, you've got to have 66% ownership, and the service charge can't be any more than 2%, including the ground rent. We do see properties in Wimbledon where the ex-local authority flats are in excess of 400,000. So they've had a bit of a bargain there, haven't they? Retirement and sheltered flats, that is under a special Ask Jane series. But again, restricted lenders are placeable, and in most cases we can get them away at a reasonable rate. Most lenders now require physical valuations, and that's happening, which is good. So that's just an overview, and any questions, I suggest the questions that we've considered here that you may wish to add to your fact find, because it will make life a lot easier, as more and more now the demand on the property type, build, and the details of it come more into play with the lenders under the new regime with the desktop and the physical that's gone through in the last few months. So thank you for that. We welcome more questions, please. Please feel free to fire them in, or you can just give us a call or drop us an email. So thank you for your time. I hope you enjoyed learning about flats and equity release, and join me again soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.